Welcome, everybody, to Connect and Serve. This is our monthly meetup for Hives for Heroes, where we connect veterans and first responders to beekeeping all over the country. And today we have one pretty far from us in Texas, in New York. So just a little bit about Hives for Heroes. Again, connecting veterans with access, resources, and funding. Access means you're going to be brought into a community that cares about you, and possibly in your geographical area, a mentor in your area that can work with you on a day-to-day basis. But the most important piece of this is actually serving in a human capacity, being a good person and serving others in your local areas. And then resources. Man, we have tons of resources on the website. Please go to those. The first thing that you're ever going to probably do is go to your state beekeeping association, in which we work with tons of them across the country. And we want to get you plugged in. Get plugged back into your communities and bring real knowledge and talent back into the beekeeping associations that have worked so hard to keep local areas alive and thriving. And of course, funding. I mean, we have funding for scholarships as you qualify. Go to the scholarship page for that for more information. Additionally, the BU scholarship, just so you know, this is open all the time. All the time. You go and connect with your master beekeeping program, which they're listed on that page, and you put your money up front. You go and succeed, we will pay you back. So there should be zero financial barrier for you to be successful in beekeeping. Although we have that initiation with Arkansas, they're going to get you a summer short course instantaneously. You're going to get connected to a community instantaneously as well. But some of you are going to want to follow on and continue to learn and grow. I know that was my aspect, is I just wanted to continue to learn, keep my mind going, and keep connecting with others all across the country for not only my success as a beekeeper, but also just to be able to have a community around me and serve us as a community in a greater capacity. So the organization is here for you. It's here to serve. I'm seeing people from literally New York, Minnesota, Maryland, Arkansas, Alabama. I mean, thank y'all all for being here. Southern Louisiana, right? Scott Steele, our state leader out there. And we have just such a special guest for you here today. We've been friends for a long time. I'll tell you that. We've been friends before this thing ever really kind of rocket ship it off. And Tom's been a good friend to me. And we've also done a lot of things together with honey, with learning bees, learning what it looks like to do it at different scales, but also being able to share stories. I can recall one time that we were on I guess it was a Zoom. I think the Zoom lasted probably 6 hours. It was supposed to be one, but that's what family does. We get together and we don't get to see each other that often, and things keep going. And we've just had such wonderful experiences together. And I'm grateful for Tom and his leadership that he's doing in I'm in New York. Well, we also have people, look, California, Colorado, Louisiana, Indiana, Kentucky, Maine. You're part of a community that really connects and serves. And that's the whole portion of this organization is connection changes everything. You can connect, you can have one layer of connection that completely changes your life. But to me, the aspect of serving others in a capacity greater than ourselves is incredible. We get the opportunity to serve our nation's heroes and to serve our communities all throughout the United States. And we're very, very grateful for that. I also want to be grateful to Mr. Tom Bacon from Union Bee Company, who's actually sponsoring this episode of Connect and Serve. And so he's going to be doing the gift cards tonight from Union Bee Co. So if you check them out of Connecticut, great guy, just got a grant from the state as well, I believe. And you know, this community is here to serve each other. So in that capacity, I want to introduce Tom Shultz of Shultz Apiaries to the stage.
Hi,
Tom,
everybody.
What's up, brother? How are you doing?
I'm a little tired, but we're doing good. Works
today. How is your weather going on up there, man? I'm in Texas. You're clearly colder than us.
This week it finally warmed up. It got above 50. The girls are out flying. Put some dry pollen sub out. They were hammering it. About 2 weeks ago, we had a warm spell. It was high 40s, but sunny. And I was able to go out and do an initial assessment and put some fondant pads on for the girls that were already up at the top of the box. And now we're hitting that protein because now they're going to start generating their brood and do that spring turnover. We're typically not out of the woods here until end of April, early May. Once you get dandelions on, that's when I'm like, okay, they've made it. I can relax a little bit and start thinking about doing splits and grafting and ripping off my nukes that I sell and really get into the beekeeping.
Well, and that's what I love about the org, right? We act as a decentralized command and control. You have a headquarters unit, but really the state leaders and the state coordinators that have volunteered to step up have a lot of autonomy, right? Because why would we know what's going on in New York when we're in Houston, right? That doesn't make any sense. I would like to take this all the way back, right? Besides Frederick Dunn, I think you're the first veteran that's been on this as a mentor as well, right? Fred does a lot of mentoring all over the place. If y'all haven't seen Frederick Dunn's channel, please go and see that as well. But he is, he's a Navy vet. You're an Army vet, right?
Army,
You've done a lot of stuff prior to beekeeping. So I want to take that a little bit back to when did you decide to go to the military? What was that decision for you? And then kind of take us in a path of your career. You've had an incredible career.
So started in high school. I'd always wanted to serve. In my senior year, I joined the Army National Guard as an infantryman. And 3 days after I graduated, I took my first airplane flight from New York down to Fort Benning, Georgia. From there, got linked up with ROTC. I went to a community college and cross-enrolled with a 4-year school. Won a 3-year ROTC scholarship. Went to airborne school and was at air assault school when the light came out of my head that I've always wanted to fly. I'm going to silence my phone so it's not dinging. And I was at air assault school and I was going to be an infantry officer. That's what I wanted to be. And it was at Fort Camp Gruber, Oklahoma in August. So it was not cool outside. It was rather warm, and they were beating us down pretty good every day. And it was ground guide day where we learned how to use hand-arm signals to tell the pilots where to go. And this little Alpha Charlie comes in and lands and shuts down, and a major pops out. And he's wearing his pickle suit, puts a soft cover. He's got his Ray-Bans on. And I was like, I want that job. So went back to school, finished air assault school, the famous toughest 10 days in the Army, and started researching aviation and qualified, got commissioned in '94, active duty, went to flight school, ended up flying Kiowa Warriors coming out of there. So I was a cavalry pilot and went to the 101st, Korea, Fort Carson. Had my first command in Korea, my second command in Carson. Went to the desert in 03 with them. Came out of the desert, pinned on major. I was teaching ROTC at Siena College. Both my kids were born in Colorado. My son was born when I was in Iraq, so I didn't meet him until he was 4 months old. And decided, I was going to try to do something different. I didn't want to raise my kids bouncing all over every 2 to 3 years. I felt like I'd done everything I wanted to do in the Army. Command was the best job in the world, and I really didn't want to be a staff officer for the rest of my life. And applied for the state police here in New York. Did that. Went to the State Police Academy. Went to the National Guard to finish up my last 6 years. That was kind of funny. I went there as a major, reverted to warrant officer for a couple of years. Went back to Iraq, flying Blackhawks. Came back from that, and I was in a medevac company where the commanding officer is an 04 major. And the old guy was rotating out, and they couldn't find somebody to take the command, allegedly, and I jokingly said, well, if you pin on my 04, I'll take the command. So 3 months later, I was a major again, and did that for a couple of years until I retired. And then I was a road trooper for like 7 years. Got on the aviation detail. Had a rather significant unscheduled hard landing that ended my flying and state police career. Had a pretty good TBI. Was in rehab for several years. And in 2015, my wife decided she wanted some bees. And that's where the bees kind of came into my life. I was pretty lost. I didn't know what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I didn't have any focus or mission. Trying different things. Nothing was really sticking. And got bees. And I was a proficient bee killer for about 2 years. I didn't know what I was doing. I took one bee class, thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. After the second year, I had bought 2 nukes the first year. They died that winter. The second year, I got 2 more nukes. We got our first honey. That was fun, trying to figure that out. And got a 4-frame Tangeal extractor where one of my kids would have to hug it while we cranked it. It was unbalanced. And after the second year, when they died again, A-type personality, I don't like failure. I started researching and learning. Michael Palmer, watched his the Sustainable Apiary. I probably watched that video 6 or 7 times, and learned about how to do splits. So that third year, I bought 2 more nukes, did some splits, built up to 10 colonies. And then the third winter, I finally had 3 of the 10 make it through winter. And then to now, I took classes at Cornell, queen rearing. I raise all my own queens. And now we manage, I think I have 239 colonies live right now. And so Hives for Heroes, I don't even remember, Steve. My brain's still a little scrambled. I can't remember.
TBI. It's a TBI. It's fine.
5, 6, 7 years ago, when I linked up with you, I had heard about it. And just so the audience knows, Steve was notorious in the beginning. He'd call me on like a Monday and say, "Hey, can you cover the Zoom meeting tomorrow night with the newbies?" And I have limeade tonight, but I would typically have a brown substance in this when I would do those.
Iced tea, right? Tea.
It was iced tea. And just have a blast. I've been a mentor. I think it's really important once you get the knowledge to help other beekeepers, whether they're veterans or not.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have that. I floundered for a couple of years. And I think I figured it out pretty well. I'm always cautious. And your analogy about, going out and working bees being like combat, it really is. It's a little scary. The bees being kind of the enemy, or you have a plan what you're doing that day, and the enemy always has a vote. Like you might be thinking you're doing one thing, and the girls have something else planned for you. And then the old timers, I talked to a bunch of old timers before I started, and they always told me, whenever you think you've got them figured out, they'll kick you right in the jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, that was just such a wonderful introduction. I highly respect you. Clearly, we've been working together for a long period of time, and for the audience, like that's a huge career. I mean, you got to understand, like this is amazing amount of years in service to our country. So we want to thank you for that, of course. But I mean, you're going from an infantry side to did you say Kiowa pilot?
Yep, flying 58 bees.
I want to dig into that a little bit because what the heck, man? I mean, you got now you're literally serving us on the ground. I mean, that's a big deal. You know what's going on because you've been on the ground.
Well, that's kind of the key. And then one of the things I'm most proud of for my first tour is we never lost a ground guy whenever we were on station. And we flew a lot. I had 7. I initially went in the country with 8 airframes on my troop. We had to give one up to another troop, but in 4 months we flew over 4,000 flight hours.
Wow.
on 7 airframes, and that's a complete. That's all my mechanics. They kept us in the air, kept us flying, and I mean, I had pilots that were hardcore pilots that you would never say, never think they would not go fly, and they're flying so much. I'm like, hey sir, I need a day off.
Tired.
If you were going out flying 8 hours a day, 5-6 hours of goggles, if we were on the night cycle, and if you're when you're flying goggles, the strain that it puts on your body is 1 hours of goggles is equal to like 2.5 hours a day flight. As far as the intensity,
that makes sense.
But
how long did you do that for? Like, because you deployed doing that, right?
Yeah, so I flew Kiowas I went to flight school in '94, graduated in end of '95. I went to 101st at Fort Campbell, early '96, and then I left active duty I left Iraq in '03. So from '95 to '03, I was flying KWs as a cavalry officer. And I got the really cool things. I got to be in all three. In the Army, there's different cav units.
Okay.
So in the 101st, we were an air cav squadron. So it was all aviation. So we had 4 air cav troops. And then I went to Korea, which was heavy div cav. So we were 3 ground cav troops and 2 air troops. So that was like my first integration with tanks and Bradleys. And I was a staff officer. And I was actually the HHT commander over there, which was weird as an aviator. Going from as a platoon leader, I had 4 helicopters and a Humvee, and then an HHT commander, I had 103 tracked and wheeled vehicles, 200 soldiers. I'm trying to inventory a 577, and I'm like, I need pictures. And thank God the Army, the old infantry in me came out. I'm doing the inventories. I'm like, but I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. So, but that was a humbling experience, and that truly, I couldn't have been successful there without my NCOs. I had top-notch first sergeants and platoon sergeants and lieutenants working for me that were, made it easy for this stupid aviator to talk ground stuff and do all that stuff.
That's like leadership, right? They teach us that in the military, and understanding that the people that are around are capable and confident as long as you're able to employ them, right? And to educate, train, and employ. Welcome from Kansas, Azle, Texas. I don't know who that is. I hadn't even heard of that. Texas is a big state, of course. But welcome, Hutto, Texas. And then that same person is saying, I was at Camp Red Cloud in Korea. So y'all have some similarities already. That's what I love about this org is like we all, no pun intended, right, cross-pollinate. We've seen people actually this week, Tom, crazy enough, we've been around 8 years. Growth is 3 years of the massive growth of the network. And one of the gentlemen came over, Marine as well, to our Heroes Hangout. And I travel about 30 miles to go to our headquarters, and he lives about 500 meters as the crow flies right here in Katy, Texas. So it's funny, this connection that changes things that you have served in a capacity in New York that people don't know, right? They don't know how many lives you've changed. I do, and I don't even know the full extent because you don't tell everybody everything that you do. Really quite cool that's all of us. Nobody shares what we do. We just do it. We do it in service, and it changes lives in capacities that we don't see. But can you share a little bit about, your transition back? Because I know that it might not have been the best as well as mine, but that to now serving in this capacity as a mentor in Hives for Heroes.
So when I came back from my, every time, I don't care if you were, flying combat missions, doing air assaults, or driving a truck, going to a combat zone changes you. There's something about when you cross that berm and you're in Indian country and I don't, anybody who went in the desert, I don't care what you did, it changed you in some way. And then coming home, I had a difficult transition after my second tour for various reasons. Um, the hardest transition was for me was after my accident. Um, it was funny. I was seeing a psychologist, and he was taking me through mourning, like grieving counseling, and he was teaching me how to grieve the loss of kind of who I was as a trooper, as a pilot. So that's who I was. I was the pilot, and then you're kind of lost. You're like, okay, what am I now? And I can't remember who asked me, and it goes, what's the most important thing to you? And I was like, service. I felt like I couldn't serve my country anymore. I couldn't feel like I couldn't serve my state anymore. I almost to a degree couldn't feel like I could serve my family and support them anymore. And that was a real rough time. And then bees and beekeeping, I mean, truly saved me. There's something about bees and whether it's the vibrations in the colony, it's just so calming.
Awesome. It looks like we just lost Tom. I wouldn't like to continue on that. So he's talking about the calming nature of beekeeping and returning back home and not really finding that purpose again. And that was a similar experience for me. And I know a lot of y'all out there that it was like, man, I just left my family. These are the brothers that I worked with. This is what we did together. And that shifts when you come home, and that's okay. Like change is inevitable. So we continue to grow on that. And I hope Tom's being able to get back on the call here shortly. But moving into a position of purpose again is truly empowering as well. Tom has done so much in the organization, unseen, as a lot of our leaders do throughout the United States. He's literally mentored hundreds of people in New York. He's been part of another program that is out there for some funding inside of that as well. But I remember days that we were talking that he would simply be like, I just gave another nuke away. I just gave another this away. I just gave another this away. And it was a joy. It was like an actual joy for him to be able to serve in that capacity, to be able to move in a direction of knowing that there's a difference being made, but also connecting back with the brothers and sisters that are out there in New York. And his experience, yeah, Tom is the man. I'm serious. He's super humble. Clearly, an extended period of time in the Army. Going from ground to air is kind of a weird transition. I think it's more familiar in the Army. It's definitely not normal in the Marine Corps. But then to go to the state trooper side and serve the community in a capacity of law enforcement, right? So now you have military and law enforcement. And when those types of things happen, right, we cope with things at different levels. Trauma is the same thing on the brain, whether it's any type of trauma. So as he's working through this stuff, and of course, we've had a lot of conversations, but he was able to serve in a capacity that is beneficial to him and his family. And they built literally an apiary. He said that the computer just died on him. So hopefully he comes back, maybe charges or something like that. But now at Shultz Apiary, they invite people out all the time. And I know a lot of other people and families and organizations do the same thing because it's really about connecting, right? It's getting out into nature, breathing fresh air, getting some sun on you, like working in a capacity together is very therapeutic. In this organization, like, man, you can be the best beekeeper in the world and that's great. But the connection is what we're really looking for. The connection of human to human, getting ourselves outside of ourselves and being able to serve and support in a capacity that not only serves each other, you as a buddy pair, for example, as our peer-to-peer network does, but you as a person, then you together with your family, and then building a healthy community outside of that. And that comes in tons of capacities. Nothing that we could ever regulate or try to control, which is a beauty of Hives for Heroes, is completely decentralized command and control. And whatever your creativity comes in and the things that you do and you would like to do, that's awesome. Let's figure out a way to support you. We have Arkansas come in. We have Virginia come in, a couple things. We got a homesteader, deployed to Bosnia when 9/11 happened, right? That's Robert over here. The majority of first responders are military veterans. It makes sense. Service to country turns into service to community. Totally agree, Ralph. Just awesome types of things that happen in this level of service. And that's why we call it connect and serve. Let's connect with each other and then serve the community to better capacity, or in the capacities in which we are able to do so. And those things are priceless. You cannot get to a capacity in which you are going to be a healthy person and serve others, again, if you're not going through things yourself. There's some kind of quotes out that are like, man, if you haven't been through stuff, you can't share that experience with people. You can't live in that experience with people. And I think although a lot of us have been through trauma, it can turn into a blessing. General Mattis said it, if you're a PTS guy, you shouldn't be less of a person. You shouldn't look at that stuff. You should be looking at how you have been through a lot of struggles and you are now better capable to connect, better capable to serve, better capable to be a person in your community that actually leads in these capacities. And that is true. There's so many leaders across the United States that we're very blessed to know. And I can tell you, we wouldn't know a lot of the people that we know without this community. Digging the shirt. Yeah, this is our polos on the hivesforheroes.org website. Pretty cool. Our state leaders are able to get these as well because they're just kind of cool. And thanks to Kevin for being able to put that together and designing those and putting them as a patch that is on the type of shirt, which is Oakley, I think, if I remember correctly. Yep, there's an Oakley right there, which is really darn cool. And so we have a lot of products that are out there, and a lot of people love wearing the gear. And I end up sharing stories of I'll meet people in the airport that have the Hives for Heroes stuff on there, and we'll talk about an immediate conversation that just starts up, and before you know it, the families are getting together at a darn airport, which is hilarious. Again, wish that Tom would come back on here, but I will fill the time as we need. Let's see. I like the words Tom used in his article with Cornell University with post-traumatic growth. Absolutely. So there's an article written back in 2021, actually, from Cornell University that highlights Tom and the work that he's been doing out in New York. He's been through the master beekeeping program out there. He serves with the Empire State honey producers as well. So he just keeps getting involved and saying yes to being able to do things inside of the community that gets to serve. He serves a lot of people that are outside of the military as well, but there's so many different stories that I've heard from him in our conversations, not only on our individual conversations, but also in the conversations that we have with our group that we have on Thursdays, weekly Thursdays on the Zoom call. And like I said, we spent 5 or 6 hours on one call that there were probably 30 or 40 people on the call. And we just kept talking and just sharing stories and talking. And by the way, most of us were not in the same state. It's all over that we're looking for that connection and to serve each other in a capacity of maybe that's knowledge, maybe that's a resource that's in your area that you don't know about yet. Sharing things that somebody else has shared with you that you just pass on freely, because that's pretty much what the organization is about. Today I also had a conversation with our Australia team, which was wonderful. They're trying to continue to grow the Australia team out there, and they're doing a wonderful job of doing it. And as we continue to share these stories, highlight really amazing people that are out there, I really want to encourage you to continue to reach out to your state leaders, reach out to the staff that is here in whatever direction you want to go. We have a very, very, very large network, and that network is here to be able to support you. Scott actually just posted on the Beekeeping for Newbies podcast, another incredible resource. They are every single day, except for maybe Tuesday or Thursday. I'm not 100%. Scott, you can do that in the chat. But they do a group every day of the week. They just like hanging out with each other. There's also another one called No Life Beekeepers that does one every day. So you can always get on to these channels, and we'll put those on the website as well. So you can get those links from the website and go directly to their channels. Actually, Scott, you're out in Virginia doing Beekeeping for Newbies. You got a podcast, and as he said, he just has a Discord channel as well. Looking through here, post-traumatic growth. Robert, that's great that you bring that up. As he was talking about that, we have this PTSD type thing, right? Post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic stress disorder. All right. I've almost forgotten it because I stopped using it as well. So that disorder is kind of naming you. It is saying that that's what you are and that's who you are. I also like the post-traumatic growth or post-traumatic stress growth, PTSD, for example. But everything that we can do can actually grow from the things that we have gone through. And to be honest, it's just like a diamond. The more pressure you have, the more beautiful it is. And that's us. That is who we are as people. That's who we are collectively, which is pretty incredible to know that we can grow from trauma and understand, like, life is hard. That's okay. It's also a lot better when we do it together. And I love Hives for Heroes for that, from just doing it better together. Gary Burns out of California says, it's great to pop open a hive and detach from the outside world. Bees have helped me through that a lot. I felt that first time I went through a hive was the first time that I could actually focus. And I tested to like the first time that I could actually breathe. It was a very incredible experience for me. Robert said he loves the newbie podcast. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that as well. And then, like I said, hey, Tom, I'm just going through some of the comments right now. Thank you so much for rejoining us.
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer
connectivity issues. I mean, you're in cold New York. What do you expect?
Well, I had to hop on my wife's computer. For some reason, mine rebooted. I'm not sure if it finished downloading an update or whatever. I want to apologize for everybody for that.
No need to apologize.
For the last 5 minutes. And
this is a great comment right here. Y'all connected me with a great Hives for Heroes mentor in Northern Alabama. It's been a wonderful experience, one I would not have found if it weren't for what y'all do. Learning every time I hook up with them. That's the point of this stuff, right? It's always the capacity of being able to connect and serve each other or serve our communities, whatever that looks like. But it's really, really cool to have these experiences, not on camera, but really off camera, right? That's where all the real work is done. When you're in a hive together and you're working together, of course, we do the education stuff and we do all that stuff through our connection platforms. But when you get in a hive together, it's a life-changing experience. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, it's amazing to watch the hesitation from initially, people like I'll give so this program I'm working with, the Dwyer program, and their Boots to Bees, which Hives for Heroes is melded in.
Yep.
The person running that, I'm not going to say his name here tonight. The whole first year. So this started 3 years ago through the Dwyer program, Data Bee program. The first year I wasn't the primary instructor, but I'd show up and help. And the guy that manages that Dwyer program, great guy, love him to death. He would stand off. He didn't want to get near the bees. He was just afraid of bees. And then, even your students, when they first come out to the yard with you, they're hesitant. But once they see you open it up and start pulling frames out, and they're like, oh, they don't want to sting you. And, and I always talk to the girls when I'm working them. And so that first year, he's like, whoa. And then last year, all of a sudden, he gets a bee suit and he's out there working, and he's in it now. He's working the bees, and it's, kind of getting over that fear of getting stung. I always say you're not a beekeeper until you've been stung. You're not you're not a seasoned beekeeper, I think, until you've pinched your first queen. When you got a substandard queen, that's everybody wants to try to save the queen, but
everybody wants to save the bees. Yep, I get it.
You get a machine gunner in there. She's dropping 3-4 eggs in a cell, and she's doing that consistently. That's what I call her, machine gunners. And into your head, or if you got a real hot hive, what the best way to fix that is dig in that colony, find her. My son and I had one real hot hive here, and we suited up, taped up, finally found her, and we went Game of Thrones. I beheaded her, put her head on a toothpick, and put it on the entrance. We went Game of Thrones and put a new queen in there, and they calmed right down, and they weren't stapling our socks to our ankles anymore.
Well, boy, that's a relief. We have Robert over here that I want to highlight his comment. This is a big deal. I refuse to be a statistic and refuse to be defined by my medical issues. Man, yeah. That's powerful, dude. Thank you, Robert, for sharing that. A lot of people wouldn't say things like that, but I know a lot of us feel it. That to me, beekeeping was a big deal, right? I was, medicated through the VA. Hey, that's the standard protocol. Service dog, who you could probably hear her nails running around the house right now, and she has more anxiety than I ever will at this point. And then I got to congratulate this guy right here. Look at this, Adam. I had the experience for the first time today. He's first timer in the bees. It was all about a sense of peace for me. Love it. Like, this is the stuff that we get to do. And even if it's just one experience, even if it's just getting you connected to education or getting you connected to a community, we have succeeded as an organization.
Absolutely.
That's how it works.
And for me, working bees is a lot like flying a helicopter. So whenever I flew a helicopter, as soon as I pulled collective and my skids or wheels left the ground, everything else vanished. My whole world was just flying that helicopter. Whatever was going on at home or whatever was gone. And my whole focus in life was flying that helicopter and doing the mission. And that's the same feeling I get when I'm working bees. Everything else disappears. And I'm focused on that one colony for that particular moment, whatever I'm doing, whether it's I'm trying to find the queen or, they're a little bit sick, I'm trying to figure it out, or I'm adding a super, or I'm evaluating the laying pattern on a queen or the nutritional status of the colony. It all goes away. And that happens every time I'm, from colony to colony, you're kind of in that zone through the whole yard.
It's so funny because I thought that was somehow a personal, unique experience, that I was some special person that was like, oh, wow, bees changed my life. And the more that we talk about this stuff, the more connection we actually have, because I can share my time, the time that I had in that, I can relate to you. Not only are we human, we're veterans, right, together, at least in this case. We have first responders here as well that put their life on the line every day. We love bees, but that experience, although you think it's unique, we share that.
And the other thing I love is the attitude adjustment you can get from the girls. Like, if one of my favorite things to do is when my wife's working with me and she'll get pissed off at me, and she comes to the bees and she's got a little bit of attitude, give me the side eye, and all of a sudden she starts getting lit up, and I'm like, hey, stop giving me the side eye. My girls they're sensing the negative vibes, Francis.
It's energy, baby.
Yeah.
I love this too. Matt, he talks about the biggest healing from PTSD I've seen from meditation. It's almost impossible not to meditate in an apiary. That you don't call it meditation, right? It just the bees do it for you.
And you don't even have to work the bees, Steve. Like, I'd have really dizzy days where I'm just wobbly. I would really go get a lawn chair and just go sit in the yard. And one of my fun things to do is I just kind of sit in the middle of the bees and look up at the sky and try to figure out all the patterns. Like, my aviation, there's the outbound route and this one's on short final, and, and then watching the entrance, what are they bringing in? Are they bringing in nectar? Are they bringing in pollen? Or, it's just, there's something about them. It's
incredible. April says you can't have too many resources. And I love that because this is a platform of resources. We don't care where you get it from. The mission of this organization is for you not to take your life and have a community around you. I mean, it boils down to that. I don't care how good of a beekeeper you are. You can accidentally, as long as you're not lighting hives on fire, clearly, but like you'll never know. The great beekeepers, the old beekeepers, 50 years, they're like, man, I learn every day.
Oh,
you learn something new all the time.
So I took a master beekeeping program that was 4 online courses. I never did take the final. I thought I got everything out of it that I needed. But you can work bees your whole life and never master beekeeping. Yeah. And when I teach classes, I try to teach the science of beekeeping, the biology, and then be wary of somebody who's telling you have to do this or you have to do that, because you can develop your own art of how you keep bees. Yeah. Like I started in standard 10 frame equipment. Now I run all my bees are in double 5 frame nukes.
That's unique. You are unique in that one.
And people are like, well, I find it one. So back to the Dwyer program, the first year they bought 3 10 frame outfits, deeps, mediums, or honey supers, and we got those. There were some challenges. We got those bees to make it through their first winter, 3 for 3. And then the program got 2 of my setups, which I run double 5 frame nukes, kind of like a Palmer resource colony, but with 5 frames. And so you can actually remove the very bottom. And I taught them how to do increases with doing I call it a forced swarm. So when that colony grows in the early spring and they're starting to get a little bit swarmy, I go in and I find that queen and I move her to a new location with like 2-3 frames of brood, a couple frames of bees. And now all in that original hive location, you've got all the resources to make awesome. All your foragers are going to come there. All her swarming instincts gone now because she doesn't have the foragers, and now she's back in rebuild mode. And you make sure she's got drawn comb. But in that original colony, they're going to make a bunch of emergency cells. So you just wait 7 days. Those emergency cells are going to be drawn out. Once they're drawn and capped, all the work's done. Now you can go through, and sometimes you've probably seen it where you've got emergency cells on 3 or 4 different frames.
Oh, yeah.
Now's your opportunity to take those 3 or 4 frames and split those out into 3 or 4 mating nukes. So now you're multiplying your opportunity. So last year we did that. We went from 3 colonies to 7 colonies. Basically, the only cost was the woodware. Mm-hmm. And then we started working the 5 frame boxes. And to the person, every veteran said, hey, can we get rid of the 10 frame stuff? Because it's
it's heavy.
It's harder. It's heavier. The 5 frames they're a lot easier to pick up. It's easier to identify problems with your bees and fix the problems. Like one of my tricks is to say you got a weak colony on one side and a really banging colony on the other side. Well, I'll just switch the locations.
There you go.
And so now all the foragers are coming to the weak colony. The strong colony, they're already strong, and it just sets them back a little bit. And you can kind of help equalize that way.
Wait, Tom, that's totally crazy. I've never learned that in any class that I've ever been in. I mean, are you kidding me that you can actually create your own identity in beekeeping and do what works for you?
Yeah. It's well, it's funny thing. A lot of people. So I raise queens and I sell queens. I probably talk 90% of the people out of buying a queen when they I need a queen. And I'll ask them, why do you think you need a queen? Well, they swarmed. I saw the swarm leave, and I'm like, did they have swarm cells? I'm like, yes. I'm like, were the trap doors open? Yes. Were they calm when you were in them? Yes. I'm like, well, if they were calm and you saw a trap door, you've got a virgin. Give her 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In 2 or 3 weeks, if you don't see eggs, give me a call. Because I hate to have somebody spend, $45 on a mated queen for them to chew her out and kill her. That's like flushing $40 down the drain.
Yeah. I love these comments that are going in here too. You're clearly teaching us a lot already. And, Matt, again, even if the bees are overwhelming, you're relaxed. It's still and calm with your movements. That's our slow is smooth, smooth is fast mentality, right? again, Robert's talking about it's totally meditative and relaxing. And here we have the mentor. Had a blast working hives with Adam Hale today. It's awesome to work with someone who's excited about bees as I am. That's a mentor newbie group right there that's on this call. Matt, silly. I have a conversation with all my animals.
My brother came and helped me once, and he started looking at me I was in there. I'm like, hey girls, I'm looking for a queen. Show me your money maker. Where's that big butt? Yep. You're touched.
And to your point right there, so currently reading a book titled The Queen Must Die and Other Affairs of Bees and Men by William Lawton, which is awesome. And you're right. I mean, we're down here, so we don't just have hot hives, we have Africanized hives as well. Yep. People are like, well, why are you taking that out? And I'm like, because we need to. They're actually a danger to others as well. So Beekeeping for Newbies says coffee and bees in the morning, still my favorite thing. I know so many people that will just go out there and, some of them, remember, you don't have to have just the traditional Langstroth. Tom's talking about that right now. He's in 5 frames. Other people, remember, top bar Laura will tell you that all the time. Well, long langs, like there's so many options out there for you that can be beneficial to you. So be curious and continue to learn.
So my first newbie, we got, I kind of went overboard with them, and I got him from 0 to 20 colonies in the first year. We started a mating yard in his place, and he was recently retired, had a lot of time. I didn't have the money to pay him, so I paid him in woodware on some resource colonies that I was getting rid of. But his back was bothering him, and lifting up he had some 10 frame stuff. He's like, hey, I'm thinking about making this Langstroth. It's the horizontal, but with using Langstroth.
Yeah, long lang, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, what do you think? I'm like, try it. I'm like, if it works for you, all bees need is a dark, dry location. That's all they really need. That's all you have to provide them. And then, just let them they're going to tell you what they want to do. If you try to force bees to do something, they will, they'll give you, they'll teach you real quick that they don't want to do it.
Yeah. We talked about that the other day on a different podcast of like the ability to know that you're not in control. A lot of us, especially with PTS, it's like we've had a traumatic situation that all of a sudden we need control over every single aspect. Guess what? That instant feedback from the bees will let you know you're not in control. We get to be stewards of amazing creatures. They're in control of what they're going to do. Ken Rhodes just said, love our bee team that we have formed from this organization. That's great. That's incredible. That's your community. That's how it's supposed to work. And I really love that. And then need Top Bar Lori to speak on them. Top Bar Lori is out of Virginia. Man, she is a proponent of top bars. She will tell you all day, every day. And at the same time, her expertise and experience is what she has. But long lang, maybe you have a bad back. Maybe you're a top bar. Maybe you're a long lang. Maybe you're a 5 frame nuke. Maybe you're a 10 frame. Maybe you're 8 frame. Right? Maybe you only work deeps. I don't know.
And that's the thing. I only work deeps. So for me to go, I only buy one size box. I only buy one size frame. Could you do 5 frames with mediums? Absolutely.
Yep.
And that's where and just figure it out. I don't use queen excluders. I let that queen go wherever she wants. Because I'm another weirdo. I don't grab a whole box. When I'm pulling honey, I actually pull honey frame by frame, brush the bees off, and then I have a closed up, with entrance closed on the jester box, and I fill that jester box, close it, and I can go through a whole yard, and 18 of them fit in the back of my pickup truck, and 18 of them come home at a time.
I mean, you've been crushing it. We'll get in more in depth in what you're doing now and what your future looks like. It is freedom time, ladies and gentlemen. Drop freedom in the chat. Please do it only once, and we'll get you for that random drawing. And thank you so much, Tom Bacon and Union Bee Company, for sponsoring tonight's $100 gift cards. We'll have 2 of them going out. Again, Union Bee Company out of Connecticut. Thank you so much, Tom, a veteran and and clearly a supporter of the organization. Thank you so much. Tom, so what are you doing now? Like you've done a ton of stuff. All right, there's your military experience. There's your police experience, serving constantly. Now you've served Hives for Heroes in a crazy capacity. You're working with the Dwyer program. And so what are you doing now and here in the future?
So I've got my business. I initially started it. My plan was I was going to raise queen and sell nukes. And then in 2019 is when I got my DBA and started the business. And we made 500 pounds of honey that year.
Wow, already.
Nukes. We were growing out the old saying, you can make bees or you can make honey, one of the two. The next year, started making more bees, and I wish we went to 5,000 pounds of honey. And then the next year after that, it was 10,000 pounds of honey, and and it's grown to the point where last year we did 17,000 pounds of honey. So obviously, my initial business plan did not go as planned. But I raise all my own queens, so I don't have that expense. We started a local, we're not even a formal club. Some local ladies asked me for some help. So once a month it's the Belvedere Bee Club in Allegheny County. There wasn't a bee club in Allegheny County. So we just meet and talk bees once a month. I'm the first vice president of the Empire State Honey Producers, the state organization. And with the Dwyer program, it's really been amazing. So I'll explain what Dwyer program is. PFC Dwyer was an Army medic, made famous on the cover of Time magazine, carrying an infant out of battlefield. And he came home. I'm not sure if he PCS or ETS, but he was with the 82nd, got separated from his guys, the support group, and went back home down by New York City, and eventually committed suicide. And in 2012, his family and Lee Zeldin started the Dwyer program, or it was a state-funded program. It's non-clinical peer-to-peer support. And it started down there for a few years. Now it's expanded. It's actually a line item in our state budget. Every county in the state gets money that's funneled to the county mental health office. And at that point, each county has a lot of latitude. They can either hire out an NGO, they can stay in mental health. Some have it through their VSO's office. And in Livingston County, where I teach the Bee Club, which is the county just north of me, it started off, they had hired an NGO to do it. And then they kind of broke that contract and went through the VSO's office. Bob Walter runs it there. And the second year, I became the primary instructor. And there's been some lessons learned as we go along, but we meet twice a month, every 2 weeks during the summertime, during the bee season. And then in the off season, we meet once a month. And now we've got people, and it was kind of the initial concept was sort of like the Hives for Hero concept. You sign up, you get a bee suit, you show up, you go through a season, learn bees, and then you go off and start your own bees. Well, last year when we did it, we had a bunch of people from the first year that say, hey, can we still come back and we still want to learn, or we don't feel ready yet to do bees. And they came back and with the newbies, and another team developed. And now this year we've had, I think, twice as many newbies. Like I said, we went from 3 colonies to last year to 7 colonies. This year, we're starting a new yard, a new location, which has some structure there. We have actually a classroom. So the original yard this year is going to become the advanced yard. So somebody that's been through a year or two that wants to continue on, they're going to be put in charge of their own colony, and they're going to be able to manage that colony for the season. And then and we'll have to start a newbie yard where the newbies, I'll take them through a season and show them how to install a nuke, and we'll do all of that. Because some of our veterans, so it really truly has been that non-clinical peer-to-peer support.
Yep.
And it's truly amazing because some of the veterans where they live, they can't keep bees. They might live in the village. You know, the zoning doesn't allow for bees. Some people are just like, we just like coming and getting together every 2 weeks, you know. One of the strengths with that has been, since it's kind of regimented and it's on the calendar, because sometimes I have newbies that, you know, I'll mentor as many people as possible, but I kind of put the onus on them to come to me. So I'm working bees pretty much all the time. And if it happens to be a rain day, Eric, if you're on tonight, he came over. Eric Weese, he's one of my newbies from last year, and he's actually in the Dwyer program this year. He came over to my house, and I gave him about a 2-hour dissertation on bees, and his eyes kind of glazed over in the first 3 or 4 minutes. He walked out. He's like, "That's a lot." I'm like, "It is a lot." That's one thing about beekeeping. You're always continually learning.
Yep.
Get the basics down. So, do you want me to go into so what I'm trying to do with that? Bob and we're trying to build a structure in Livingston County. He has an agreement with my county for 6 veterans at Allegheny County that they want to drive up, that they'll send the funds for their suit and stuff. And Bob wants to turn it into the self-licking lollipop. And what that means is that it funds itself. So eventually we're going to get to a point where we're making honey. And, you know, since it's government organizations, governments are good at spending money, but not making money.
No kidding.
And so you and I have conversations with, hopefully through the Heroes Honey Avenue, we can take that money, get it to you, get it monetized, and now that's money to come back to the program. So it would free up the Dwyer funds to do more things. The other things the other things they do is like fishing trips, camping trips, picnics. Bob's just an amazing guy, and he truly cares for veterans. He's, you know, a retired sergeant major, and, you know, any leader that's worth a shit knows that 99% of their job is taking care of their Joes.
Take care of people, man.
And so he's taken that into his retired life. And so that's what we're doing now. Once we get that structure here in this county, I'm going to try to replicate that around the state.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing because, again, we bring our strengths, our unique abilities, our talents, whatever you want to call that, and we come together. And that's why we talk about being better together all the time. Yep. And leading together, right? There's not a singular leader anywhere. There's great ideas and things that come in from all aspects, and then we just flush them out, see if they work, and then replicate. These are really, really good things, and not all states have programs like that. Right. This was from a serious incident, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the family stood up and they said, "Hey, I'm going to do this." And we get to the opportunity to continue that legacy. Out in the Heroes Honey from North Carolina, 17-year-old young lady is going out there and taking the hive to every one of their yards and then donating that back to Hives for Heroes as well. You know, the Heroes Honey that will be, formally unveiled soon has been working. Right. These are good things that when we're doing things together, it just is able to allow more opportunity for others and not have it to where it's like for us. It's for the next ones. I think Troy said that in one of his videos. He's like, we get to prepare the road for others. Bees don't collect honey and get to even see that. It's for the next. Yeah, it's for the next, and we get to continue to grow in that capacity. It's just absolutely beautiful.
And where's my phone?
Here we have, again, thank you again, Tom Bacon, Union Bee Company, Connecticut, 2 $100 gift cards to his store. He does obviously beekeeping and beekeeping products that are out there. Dan Y, and Brian Major. You are 2 recipients this evening. So thank you all for typing freedom in that chat. I know we all love freedom. So we have Dan White and Brian Major. If you could please email support@hivesforheroes.org. You are the recipients of the Union Bee Company's 2 $100 gift cards today. So congratulations. I'm glad there's been so many stories in the chat as well. We didn't get to all of those. But Tom, what would be like your final type things going on? Like, why bees? Why Hives for Heroes? Why is this so freaking important? You have literally invested your retirement in this at this point.
I don't see anybody. It's a way. So why bees? Bees chose me. I didn't. I mean, like I said, my wife wanted the bees. I didn't want anything to them. It just happened. Why Hives for Heroes? Because Hives for Heroes is so flexible. Steve, I hand it to you. I remember in the beginning we were talking about, how are we going to standardize this or standardize that? And you always said, no, it's just about the connections. And there's strengths and weaknesses with that. But I think there's definitely more strengths when an organization like yours can pair up with any other organization and assist, like the Boots to Bees program or a state organization. Because with a lot of organizations, a lot of times they want to build their fiefdom or their kingdom, and push other people away. You're always welcoming any other organization, and it really goes back to helping veterans, first responders, and sometimes beekeeping is not a match for everybody. I've had newbies show up and then that this isn't for me. But there's other aspects to beekeeping, whether it be woodworking to making woodware, or crafting, working with wax, or just say you just want to buy honey, and here's one: learn how to make hot honey. Hot honey is like a hot item right now. One of my best customers, her husband keeps some bees. He's a Marine, but she buys a lot of honey from me. She makes whipped honeys, flavored honeys. They're amazing. The Irish Bee Company here in New York. She makes the best hot honey I've ever had. It's just serving people, helping somebody else. And because I've been in some dark places, I know you've been in dark places, and it's all about pulling people out of that dark rabbit hole and giving them something to do or something else to be responsible for. And what a better way to do that, to go work bees and be able to forget everything else for a little bit and kind of reset. So you don't continue to go down that rabbit hole. We're not an hour, are we? Come on, Steve. We got a 6 hour.
It's so funny. Like when you and I talk, an hour is basically nothing. Like we'll be on a drive, going somewhere, and I'm like, man, an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's nothing. I just want to thank you for all the things that you've done. Your past service in both capacities, right? Military and law enforcement. Clearly, you've been through a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of people on this call that I'm grateful for that can even, one, respect that, but two, like, understand a little bit in their own capacities of what that looks like, and then being able to transition that as well. Because what we didn't get to talk to about as well is your family's involved, right? Like that's huge. It's like you, family, community, service. I mean, this is a 5 hour conversation, right? Yeah. And I'm blessed to have you as a friend.
I put my daughter on the payroll, and she works for me all summer long, and she makes enough that she's writing the check to college, and I'm not writing the check to college, and it's it's an expense for the business, which is kind of a win-win. I've only 2 or 3 times a season she wants to choke me out, and I want to choke her out.
Together time, you never can get that back.
But when you go to the bees that have a bad attitude, they get you refocused real quick. Help you get through that. She's actually coming home Thursday night, and we'll be in the bees together Friday.
And by the way, as a family of service, what is your son doing right now?
My son's an OS3 in the Coast Guard, stationed in California, and here very shortly he'll be going out on a 4-month patrol. His favorite thing to say, tell me now, is, Dad, it's classified. I can't tell you.
Department of Homeland Security.
Yep. And, he was going to join the Army, and they couldn't get him the MOS he wanted. And for those of you out there, the Coast Guards, they're on the front lines every day.
Every day. Yeah. Hey, a fun fact on the Coast Guard: the reason why they're not in the DoD and in the Department of Homeland Security is because they have arresting authority. A lot of people don't know that.
Do you know that they have special teams that they put on Navy ships, destroyers and frigates? And when there's a law enforcement, say they're down in South America somewhere and they see something they want to pull up, they actually bring down the Navy flag, put up the Coast Guard flag, and that E6 or E7 now has command and control over that entire ship.
Pretty crazy. The whole puddle pilots back in the day that we used to talk about all the time. I'm like, ooh, the more you learn, the more you learn. So, hey, thank you everybody for showing up to Connect and Serve. We do this every second Tuesday of the month. We bring on amazing people like Tom that can share their stories and maybe you can connect with, right? Tom's always available if you want to connect with him. Obviously, Shultz Apiary out of New York. Thank you again to Tom Bacon at Union Beco for supporting the gift cards today. But here at Hives for Heroes, again, we're here to connect and serve. We're connecting veterans and first responders to beekeeping all over the country and now internationally, of course, but really providing that access, resources, and funding for your success. The more that you're involved, hey, we're not going to hold your hand. You got to put the effort into it. And I promise when you have a mentor and you're motivated getting into things, you will succeed one way or another. One way or another. You might lose some bees, but you're going to learn from that and we're going to grow together. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, we'll see you next month with another special guest. Tom, thank you so much for being here. You're such a freaking awesome person. And
I want to say a special thanks out to Kate Ray for helping me get over this. I'm kind of a technological retard. Well, I had a great conversation with her and her husband the other night, and we automatically made the connection, and I think we talked for 30, 45 minutes.
That's awesome. And just so you know, Kate is now our social media person here at Hives for Heroes. Welcome, Kate. She's going to be posting a lot of incredible things. She's already done a great job, and I can only see it being better and better and better. And Ron, of course, is our Indiana state leader. So they do this as a team. Again, this is not just about individuals. This is about growing as a person, growing as a family, and then contributing to the community as a whole. Again, we're better together. And we can do this in the capacity of understanding that we are here to serve each other. And it's such a beautiful thing. So thank you again. Good night, everybody. And we'll see you next month.